Hi, I'm Phil. This is one of a series of videos that I'm doing about orchids suited for temperate climates, such as ours in coastal New Zealand. This particular one is on Australian Dendrobiums that are suited for intermediate conditions. You can see that they're gorgeous things. They just flower their pretty heads off given half the chance. Canes will flower over a number of years, and each cane will produce a number of spikes. Aussie Dendrobiums are tough things. I know people who have them growing in pots outside in the full sun, on rocks, or even in the ground. They get baked in summer and they get frost sometimes, even sometimes snow in winter. However, having said that, if you want to grow exhibition quality plants, it is better to grow them under some form of cover. I have 30% shading over my plants in the winter, and then in summer I add another 30%, so making up to 60% shading. Generally, Australian Dendrobiums can be treated as intermediate growers. I grow mine on a heat pad. They get down to around about 10 degrees Celsius in winter and up to 25 or maybe 30 degrees Celsius over the summer. They can certainly stand conditions well beyond these. They're as tough as a bush ranger's boot. They do need a period of winter chill in the winter to initiate flowering. Dendrobiums are fairly fine-rooted plants. I grow mine in a fine bark medium as young plants, and then I move them on to coarser grade bark as they mature. They do need perfect drainage, so I sieve and wash the bark to remove fine dust that could clog up the media and remove as many wood splinters as possible. A number of growers I know do add a similar grade of perlite or pumice at a proportion of around about 1 part of pumice or perlite to 3 parts of bark. Dendrobiums have a great virtue in that they're compact growers and they don't ramble across the pot and into space. The new canes emerge close to the old ones and the roots usually stay tidally confined. Repotting should be done in the early spring, just as new roots are being initiated with the young canes. It's important not to disturb these roots while you're doing the repotting. If you divide a plant, you should put the older part of the plant against the side of the pot and give as much growing room as possible. Sometimes the plants produce keikis on the top of their canes, and these can be propagated. Keikis are a bit of a nuisance as they can be produced as an alternative to initiating flowers. They may develop as a result of stress, such as overwatering or losing roots. However, it may also be a genetic feature. So overall, it's best not to propagate from keikis to stop plants that produce them from becoming dominant amongst collections. The plants develop rapidly over the growing season and should be watered regularly. I would water mine every second day over the summer, and quite often I would miss them on days that I'm not watering. Over the winter, I would water them once every week or 2 weeks, 1 week I guess, and then the general rule would be if they look dry in winter, leave them a couple of days and then water them. Onto the species. The one that's most commonly grown and in breeding is Dendrobium speciosum. It's quite a big chunky grower and it produces multiple spikes per cane over several years. They're generally a creamy colour with burgundy markings on the lip, with some forms are quite yellow. The next most common species used is Dendrobium kingianum. This is a much more compact grower than speciosum and naturally comes in a range of colours from purple to white, although mauve is the most common. Beyond these two, the species that are the most commonly used in breeding include Dendrobium jonesii or Rupianum, Falca rostrum, Tetragonum, and Fleckeri. Dendrobium tetragonum in particular can lend a spidery form to breeding similar to a brassica orchid. Offspring also have dark markings, particularly along the margins of the sepals and petals, which can look spectacular, particularly on a specimen plant. This Matthew Moore purple jester was the grand champion at the 8th New Zealand Orchid Expo in 2016. What a looker! Looking at the main breeding pathways, Dendrobium speciosum crossed with Tetragonum gives Hildapoxin, speciosum with kingianum gives Specio kingianum, kingianum with Falco rostrum gives Bardo rose, kingianum with Tetragonum gives Ellen, Tetragonum crossed with Falco rostrum gives Star of Gold, jonesii with kingianum gives Ella Victoria Leni, Fleckeri with speciosum gives Sunglow. This is just a very brief introduction into the many directions that breeding has followed. So, look out for intermediate growing Australian Dendrobiums next time you go around the shows. Maybe I'll bash into you there. Thanks for watching.